Revelation of Clay, Part 3, Exodus. Let's do a recap of Signs and Wake Up before we get started into this one, just to kind of help pave the way for those who may not have watched the other ones. I do recommend you go back and watch them, though, if you haven't. On November 2016, we had Borisov Comet, which is many are now referring to as the Conception Comet, which had entered Virgo just prior to Jupiter entering and exited just as Jupiter was entering before its 42-week traversal in there. And we know that this comet appears to only have a one-time pass. So this is definitely a one-time event for that comet, kind of lending some weight to the current signs that are in the heavens. We have then my accident on Father's Day in 2017. So a few months later, excuse me, we had the accident where I put a bullet through my hand by accident. It was definitely not on purpose, which I covered in detail, which left me with a reminder. I mean, it looks like I got a stake driven through my hand. So I'm not to say it is a reminder of the crucifixion, of a crucifixion in general. But of course, it brings to mind, since I did the praying and the whole on Father's Day, it definitely makes me think of the crucifixion of Jesus. So every time I look at that, it's what comes to mind. Then we had the eclipse, which crossed the seven Salems and crossed over the developing tropical storm, which turned into a hurricane. So the eclipse pointed to the hurricane, which hit the body of Christ, or Corpus Christi. And once it hit land, it was there for 117 hours, which pointed to 20. If you go back and you use the Old Testament or the Bible in general, the number 20 is used 117 times, which on the next, or 20 days after the hurricane, we had the Revelation 12 sign, which of course was the alignment. And then as you look forward in time, so we had the eclipse point to the hurricane, which pointed to the Revelation 12 sign. And then the second eclipse that comes appears between 2017 and 2024 to be 7 years. But as we calculate out the actual days, it's 6 years, 7 months, 18 days. So it's short of the 7 years. So this brings, of course, the tribulation time frame. But since it's short, you think, okay, maybe not. Okay, that I might be just a bit reaching here. So when putting this together, I found that it was 2,422 days, and did a little further researching. I found Matthew 24:22, for if those days are not cut short, no flesh would survive. This whole sequence of events has led me to believe that the tribulation has begun. And of course, there's a lot of other things that are going on out there that you can look around and see. You just have to open your eyes and look past the current media that they put in front of you. Do some digging, and you'll see that there's there's a lot going on. Next, I had it put over to, following several months after the Revelation 12 sign and the actual bullet through the hand, I worked on piecing it all together, and I think I've come to the conclusion that I must have been holding my wallet when I did the prayer. So I had picked up the gun, chambered the round, said prayer for Jordan, and in so doing, I must have popped it, and it somehow or another, it flipped the wallet out of my hand, went through, I'm saying it must have kind of gone through at an angle like that, come out, and then made its way to the boating ball, and then the wallet, when it flipped over into these boxes. That's where I found it. And then, of course, later I went, a few months later, I was over there cleaning up all the boxes and just making sure that, basically cleaning up the area. And I found the bullet, which was within a foot of where I found my wallet. So this bullet on a trajectory away from the wallet, I kind of went with the wallet in that direction, but the ricocheting off of this boating ball, which has, interestingly, the yin-yang symbol on it, changed its trajectory so that it landed right over by the wallet, kind of pointing back to the wallet, which of course had the credit cards were the only thing in it that were damaged. So I clearly believed that there was a message in this, and I was searching for it. So I asked the broadest question I could, to the universe, to God, whoever is in control, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? And again, after piecing all of these events together, with everything from the comets to the signs, the hand, the wallet, the credit cards, I came up with the question. And I fixed it in my mind. It was there for a while. I had kind of like, maybe that's it. But one day I'm out there, I'm standing in my kitchen looking out the back window, and I actually, with intent on an answer, give me an answer. I want an answer. I deserve an answer. I ask, Father, are you telling me to let go of this world? And at that moment, peace just permeated me. And yes, I had my answer. He answered me. Now that said, let's move on into Exodus. One day while working on cleaning out a house, I heard the words rabbinic text, which kept repeating in my mind. I came to understand that the original rabbinic texts are the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament. Over the next couple of months, as I was making my way through the Old Testament, I would pick an audio book at random and listen to the whole thing. I kept getting led back to Exodus and the story of Moses. Then the Spirit of the Lord brought to my attention that the solar eclipse crossroads were in an area called Little Egypt, which prompted me to look up the crossroads in the Bible. There were several passages, but the one that captivated me was Jeremiah 6:16. My focus attention was drawn to this. Jeremiah 6:16. The Lord said to his people, "You are standing at the crossroads, so consider your path. Ask where the old reliable paths are, and ask where the path is that leads to blessings, and follow it. If you do, you will find rest for your souls." But they said, "We will not follow it." Then my attention was focused on triangulating the crossroads. I was able to pin down a location to a piece of property located at 2 Salem Road, Makanda, Illinois. And I put here the actual coordinates that I was able to map out. I spent quite a bit of time trying to dig up the coordinates of the eclipses to triangulate this. And my background in the Navy has helped me with an understanding of how to do triangulation, which isn't all that difficult in the first place, but it did make it much easier to do. So the crossroads are triangulated here for your benefit if you'd like to go check it out. I also noticed then, as I pinned down on this, I noticed that it was in an area called Makanda. In the early 20th century, Makanda used the slogan, "Star of Egypt." Interesting. So we're in an area called Little Egypt where this is crossing over. And right there is Makanda, the Star of Egypt. So now that I've found the location of the crossroads, I felt obligated to ask the question, where's the path that leads to blessings, right? So I was led due east to the Mississippi River, which is within the bounds of the crossroads. The river represents the oldest and most reliable path. So asking the question where the path is that leads to blessings, now it's, what does this mean, leads to blessings? How does the river lead to blessings? Then in a moment of divine inspiration, I realized that the blessings of a river is its headwaters or its source. This led me to Lake Itasca. So if I follow the river, the Mississippi, all the way to its source, it's Lake Itasca. Interestingly enough, that if you follow its alternative route through the Missouri River, it brings you to Yellowstone, which I guess you could call a blessing since it hasn't gone off yet. But who knows what's going to happen with all the things that are going on. So, the path that leads to blessings. Mississippi River, Lake Itasca. I noticed that Lake Itasca is in the Ojibwe Chippewa Reservation area. So then over the next few months, I'd ponder all of these things that I'd seen so far, and I found myself repeatedly asking the Lord, what's up with the Chippewa? I find humor, and humor is fun, so let's use it and enjoy it. So what's up with the Chippewa? I'd ask him, and I'd hoping somewhere along the way that as I asked this question, I'd get an answer. But it was a while before answers finally started to come. On the afternoon of May 3rd, I was home early from work and received a call to run a local errand for work. Approximately 3 miles from my house, I received a call stating that the errand was no longer necessary. While on the phone, I noticed a car stopped on the other side of the road. I hung up the phone, turned around, and came up behind the car and found that a snapping turtle had wandered into the road, and they were trying to help it to safety. The turtle was about 3 feet long. It was huge. The head on that thing was about that big. And of course, when his mouth opened, I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near it. When I tried to pick it up, he dug his claws into the asphalt and made it impossible. I don't want to say impossible, but as he hissed at me, made me think twice about continuing. And I backed off, and about that time, another car drove up and was like, hey, everything okay? Yeah, everything's all right. We're just trying to get the snapping turtle out of here, And he's, oh, okay. Just pick him up by his tail. Well, so I picked him up by his tail, and yep, sure enough, he let go. I carried him off the road as far as I could before I started getting into the marsh, and I set him down, and he hissed at me the entire way. I did find out later that it's not right to pick up a turtle by its tail because it can damage its spine, and I feel bad that I did that, but it is what it is. I did do it. And we got him out of the way, and hopefully he's safe and no harm. We'll see. I guess we won't see. Just hope he didn't. So the next day, as I reflected on the snapping turtle, I remembered that turtles play a role in American Indian lore. A little research led me to the Ojibwe Chippewa legend of Waynaboozhoo and the Great Flood. The legend of Waynaboozhoo is a story similar to Noah and creation. An excerpt of it, I suggest go and read it. It's actually pretty interesting. All of the lore is all pretty interesting, but this little excerpt is what's important for this story. Then Waynaboozhoo took Ajigade's mud in his hands and began to shape it. Next, he commanded it to grow. As it grew, he needed a place to put it. Makianak The snapping turtle came forward and said, I have a broad back. Place it here. Waynaboozhoo put it on Mackinac''s back so that it could grow larger. Miigwech, Mackinac, said Waynaboozhoo. From this day on, you shall have the ability to live in all the worlds, under the mud, in the water, and on land. Something that occurred to me while going through this was how, looking this stuff up, I came across some of these images, which were pretty cool, so that's why I'm sharing them. But you may have heard of the legend of Turtle Island and things of that nature. And if not, those are Native American lore components. And Turtle Island refers to North America. And when you look at North America from above, it does resemble a turtle, which makes you wonder, how did the ancients know that they lived on something that looked like a turtle? Yeah. Anyways, so while researching Native American turtle lore, I found Turtle Mountain, which is located in the Ojibwe Reservation area. Then I came across the International Peace Gardens, and immediately I knew that was where I was being led. I had to go place clay on the turtle's back, right? I mean, come on. I find a lot of humor in it now. I found humor in it then. It's a driving, compelling force when you're going down this road that I'm going down, and this stuff happens, and it's like step by step you're led to this, and here you are. Okay, got to do it. Got to go put clay on the turtle's back. Let's do it. So the next day, May 5th, I was meditating, trying to gain further insight, trying to find how this was going to work out, what I needed to do. So the open questions, when do I go? What do I need to do? Are you telling me to go? What's going on? And during my meditation, I had a vision, and this vision flashed, and it was kind of like when you're turning and you have a limb in your face, and you know how you kind of go like that? Well, that's how it felt. I was there, and there was a limb in my face, so I jumped back, startled me out of meditation. And I'm like, okay. So, all right, let's see if we can get back to that point. So I got back in, relaxed, and immediately I had a second vision, which was the stream with a path of rocks that crossed it. Later that day, same day, May 5th, we had to take the boys to a scouting event at a local nature center. Inside the nature center, we found a turtle shelter where they had several turtles. I took it as a confirmation to make the trip. I mean, what are the odds of these things stacking up so quickly on top of each other? And I'm beyond the point now of seeing things as coincidence. I'm looking, I'm asking, I'm expecting answers. And in that frame of mind, you get what you're asking for. So I took it as confirmation to make the trip. The next day, which was a Sunday, I was at the house praying, meditating, trying to determine when I needed to make my trip. Okay, I've made the decision. I'm going. When should I go? After prayer, I walked outside and sat down. The boys were outside in the backyard playing. Our neighbor's son, Michael, came to me and asked for some water. I had just brought out an unopened bottle, and so I gave it to him as Jesus' words came to mind, and whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water, only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. I mean, it's funny how these things, they just pop up in your head when things are going on. And that's kind of how things have happened, going back to the eclipse. When I found that it was short, the verse popped into my head, if those days be short and no flesh would survive. And I kept repeating over and over in my head until finally one day, when putting all of it together, I found it. So I don't take these things lightly when something pops into my head anymore. So he handed the bottle back, and I started tapping it on my leg. Tap, 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 tap. And then it dawned on me that sounded like a ticking sound. Okay, all right, I'm doing this. I'm setting the bottle down. I'm not going to force a situation. So I sat back in the chair and I started rocking back and forth. And it went squeak, 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 squeak. I stopped all motion and sat still for a minute, contemplating the ticking sounds. Tick, tick, tap, tap, squeak, squeak. It kind of, I don't want to say it was an uneasy feeling, but I felt like I was causing this to happen. And I didn't want it to be me doing it. I wanted this to be something that was a message. And not that it wasn't, but it felt too easily to be me. So I said, okay, let's go do something else. I'm going to go back in the house, and I don't even remember what was on my mind, but I walked back in the house and I heard a clock ticking. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It was the cuckoo clock that is hardly ever wound. The little chain, you pull on it and then it winds itself out and it stops. And it's usually stopped because nobody ever winds it. But that day, the boys must have wound it before they went outside. And it was after I went outside, because it wasn't clicking or ticking when I went outside. So that said, I still think the boys must have did it. But 1, 2, 3. That was it. With 3 different clock ticking confirmations in rapid succession, it made me feel as if time was running out. Come on, time to go, time to go, time to go. All of a sudden, I felt heavily compelled to go. The next day, May 7th, a Monday, I was driving to work on a freeway, and on my way to the job site, a car caught my attention by rapidly slowing down in front of me. It was an open freeway. There was hardly anybody out there. And this car pulled into the lane in front of me and then slowed down really fast. I'm like, okay, I got to slow down. I got to stop. Not stop. We're going. But we went from like 70, 80 miles an hour down to 50 miles an hour. That's how much it slowed down. And so, I am at peace. I'm not upset with them for doing it. I'm just like, why would you do that? And so instead of trying to jump past them, I'm like, okay, my exit's coming up. I need to start getting over. So I get over and they get over. I get over, they get over. And then I get into the turnoff lane, they get into the turnoff lane. And we follow the lane around, and I'm following this car almost all the way to the job site, making every turn I make. I'm like baffled. So just before I get there, or a little ways, I take notice. I'm like, okay, there's something about this that I need to notice. So I noticed the license plate number, and it was a greenish kind of car. It was a light green. And when I arrived at my destination, I looked up the number. I mean, and just to note, this is not a picture that I took. I found this picture on the internet and I made this license plate just to kind of give a reference to what I saw. And I looked it up, and hash 646414 is the hex value for the color olive, which I thought was interesting. I mean, okay, olive. The car's color was kind of olive, and they like olives, but at the same time, I still did not dismiss it. It's an olive. About an hour later, a couple hours later, we were taking a break, and I was explaining to Amanda about the car and the color olive. And at that moment, a dove flew over our head and landed on the railing above us. You know, okay, chance, I get that. And so after finishing the job, I drove to Bill's house. I knowing that I wanted to go, or that I was compelled to go, I had to go. I was making this trip. I just didn't know when yet, and how this was going to play out. And I knew that I wanted to go as quickly as I possibly could. So I decided that I would go to Bill, who I work with. He basically owns the company. He's my brother-in-law, and we've been working together for the past few years. And I figured I would go find out, could business handle my departure for a little while? So if it could, that would be my indication that I could go. Time to go. On my way to his house, not that this means anything, but I thought I would share it with you. It's a very interesting point. I passed by a place called Moose Heart, and I noticed some guys out front taking a picture. They were out by the road. They were perched on the side of the road with these monster cameras and these big telephoto lenses taking pictures of something. And I'm like, okay, got to stop and check it out. What are they taking pictures of? It turns out there's a bald eagle's nest at the Moose Heart property, and the eagles return there each year to nest. And so I thought that was interesting, thought I'd share it. I don't know if it means anything. I haven't had it line up with anything yet, but I recorded it. Given the sequence of events of everything, I record everything within this. I shouldn't say record everything because I don't record everything. Maybe I should. But nonetheless, interesting. Wanted to share it. So I arrived at Bill's and confirmed that there were no immediate work needs, and that was the confirmation I needed. I told Bill what was going on. I went through the whole sequence of events of how, the wallet. He knew about the hand, of course, and some of the other elements. But I went over how the credit cards led me to. So I told him the story. Bill he understood and was supportive and wished me a safe journey. He actually gave me some travel money. Thank you, Bill. And decision was made. Destination set. I began to question if I should go to the Crossroads first or just go straight to the Peace Gardens. And immediately I get the answer. Always start at the Crossroads, or at the cross. You always start at the cross. Always start at the cross. That was kind of the answer that was put on me. Okay, we'll go to the cross first. Crossroads. Yeshua is the key. I want to add that part of the way that Yeshua is the key isn't just the name, but it's his words. And I have personally done a lot of soul searching and wanting and looking for the truth and willing to step outside of all religious contexts and look into each one individually and understand them separately. And as I did, I found many common threads between them. And it's the common threads that represent the truth. And I think it's important to understand, what is the truth? The truth is not a lie. The truth is easy. The truth is simple. You can't be told what the truth is. You have to discover the truth for yourself, because it's here. The truth is here. And if you can't find it, I can't give it to you. That being said, these common threads, the floods, or the history of the flood, Cain and Abel, it's not just in the Bible. This is stories that are across a lot of them. A lot of them go back to the Mesopotamia or Babylon, before Babylon. and the Sumerian texts. So a lot of this seems to come forward from ancient writings. What I have found is that based on the things that I've read in the Old and New Testament, it's almost like it's a compression of this information into a divine code, and that information is real. The information is there, and it's permeated into all the other religions. Some of them, I don't want to go into it all right now, but the way that Jesus is the key, his words, if you just go and focus on his words, he winds these threads into a cohesive narrative. They're told in parables, so you have to open up and allow the Spirit to reveal the words and how it all comes together. That being said, you don't have to go look into everything else to find these truths. You really just need to follow his words and understand what he's saying. Then you can open up to the broader Bible and allow the rest of it to begin speaking to you. And remember that keys are hidden. The names have been changed. You need to understand what the names are and how those names translate, and then use the interlinear to actually unlock the meaning of the texts and the deeper meaning of the texts. So I know that leads down a much deeper rabbit hole, but I thought it might be interesting to share that. And remember, your words reveal your heart. Do not allow your emotions to rule your speech, and hold your tongue, asking for God's guidance. Be patient and allow him time to speak through you. When you respond with your emotions, it is not from God, but it is your own vanity speaking. It is by this you will be judged. Question everything with an open heart and weigh everything on the balance of love. Always seek and speak the truth. What is the truth? Become one with the holy word of truth in love and find peace. With love in your heart, take the gift of salvation. Walk in peace, girded in truth and righteousness, shielded with faith, and speak with the flaming sword of truth. One more point on the truth. Truth is not a lie. Truth is opposite of the lie. But you can't have a lie without the truth. So a lot of the things that you see in the world, a lot of the information that's coming at you, it's not true. Most of it is theory being thrown at you as fact. What you need to do is suspend judgment and understanding, or your perceptive understanding of what's out there, and start to think, I don't know anything. Teach me the truth. And suspend judgment on everything that you think, whether you think it's evil or good, whatever. Stop thinking that way and allow it to be revealed to you. You can't have a lie without the truth. So a lie, all of the lies have the truth embedded in them. The truth is like a light. The lie is like a shadow. You can't cast a shadow without the light. End of part 3, Exodus. Next up, journey to the peace gardens. Much love.